So, Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt after all the plagues and all that kind of stuff, and then the Egyptians pursued them. So Moses is standing at the water, the edge of the water. God has told him to raise his staff. Moses stands at the edge of the water with the Egyptians behind them, raises his staff, and then waits. We don't know how long it took between the Moses. Shut up!
The Moses.
We don't know how long it took between the staff being lifted into the air and the water parting. Mark's to the right of me laughing.
Osmosis.
Osmosis. That's a good joke. My whole talk is this. What was going through Moses' mind when he lifted the staff?
Wow.
We know that God is for us, but are we willing? What Moses was really good, and the Israelites, they were really good at complaining and moaning, even more than Libby. So then Moses argued with God. He did it for nearly 2 chapters. There were consequences. The chapter could have been really small if God just had said, go and get my people, and Moses said, okay. But he didn't. He whinged. Don't whinge. In the book of Thessalonians, it encourages us not to quench the spirit. I'm not sure how we can do that. God is all powerful and almighty. But there's a kind of an indication that we can kind of get in the way. Let's not get in the way. Let's be people who actively seek God and say, Lord, what do you want us to do? Who do you want us to be? And then just do it. Because if we don't, we seem to quench the spirit. You see, we want to be people who make a difference. Well, hopefully we want to be people who make a difference. However, when Moses was given the opportunity, when the burning bush said to him, do something for God, Moses pretty much said, pick somebody else. Let's not be those kind of people. In Colossians, it encourages us to have a heavenly mindset rather than an earthly one. To look at things from God's perspective and not from our perspective. Because when we do that, we see what's truly important. We see what God wants us to do. We see things and we see people through God's eyes. And that's so much greater. And there's so much more potential when we see things through God's eyes. And if we see things in the potential of God's power. But what if you step out? What if you say something? What if it doesn't work and everything falls flat? My question on top of all that is, what was Moses thinking when he lifted the staff?
Ooh.
God has called us to do all sorts of things. He wants us to talk to our friends. He wants us to be involved in church. He wants us to read the Bible. He wants us to step out of our comfort zones and see what he wants. The thing is what you've got to do is that whatever's in your hand, if God has told you to lift up a staff and stand by a sea, waiting for the waves to part, sometimes you just got to do it. Did Moses lose faith halfway through? Maybe. Did he doubt? We have no idea how long it took between the staff being raised and the water parting. It could have been ages. Well, I think it took a long time for the waters to recede anyway, but the point is we've got to step out. In some respects, the outcome doesn't matter. It's about being obedient to what you feel God's calling you to do. Hang on in there and just wait for God.